Hi, this video is going to try and explain how to do or demonstrate how to do a glide reflection. The first step in a glide reflection is to take my quadrilateral, my pre-image, LEAF, and I'm going to reflect that across my mirror line, which is right here. I'm going to do that. I'm going to start at each vertex, and I'm going to set my compass to some distance so that it will cross the mirror line. And I'm going to make a pair of marks, one here and one here. And once I've found these 2 points at these 2 marks, I'm going to use those to, without changing my compass width, measure and mark here at the center. So I found these 2 points, and then I, from each of those, measured the same distance and found where those 2 arcs intersected. And this right here is going to be A prime. And then, since I did that for A prime already, I'm going to repeat that process for each of these 3 other points. So I'll set my compass to a slightly wider length so that I can actually hit the mirror line. And I will mark here and here. So there's my F prime. And I can just keep repeating this process for each of these other vertices. You may notice my line got a little bit, or my mark is a little bit off the line. One of my options is that I could just extend that line a little bit. So now I have these 2 points, and I will measure from each of them. So measure from here without changing my compass. And also from here. So there's my E prime. And last, but certainly not least, I need to find L prime. So I go all the way up to L. I set my compass to an appropriate width. That seems just fine. I get that point and this point. So there is L prime. And I'm going to connect these 4 points to get this is sort of my intermediate step. So I'm connecting these to get it's the image of the reflection, but it is not the image of the entire glide reflection. This is sort of the intermediate step, the midway point. From here, I still have to complete the translation that goes along with that reflection. That translation is up here, and I know a lot of people like to measure straight from the translation, but the translation vector. But if you look here, it's too far away from my image to really be helpful here. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to measure the length. I'm going to measure how long this vector is. So I'll set the tip of my compass at one end. I will adjust my width so that it is correct. I'm going to change colors just so that it's not quite so confusing. And I've measured that distance, and I'm going to choose some point, any point, on my mirror. Doesn't matter where. I'm going to choose right here because it looks pretty to me. And I'm going to move my compass to that point. I'm going to swing my compass around, and I'm going to make a mark. And now I know that the distance between those 2 points is exactly the same as the length of this vector. So basically, I have moved this point, which we will call, let's make it blue, we will call it x, to this point, x prime. And I'm going to use that information to help me with this construction. I still have my compass set to the right width, so I'm going to go to this point f, and I'm going to make an arc. I know that I went to f prime, I made an arc, and I know that f double prime, my image after this translation, is going to be somewhere along this arc. But I don't know exactly where yet, and in order to figure that out, I can measure from x, which is sort of, a part of my pre-image now for this translation, from x to f prime, and then I'm going to use that to measure here. And I can find, oh, that's where my f double prime is going to be. Let's mark it down. And I can just keep repeating this process for each of these 4. I set my compass so that it is the correct width. It is as wide as my vector. So I set my point here. I set my compass to be that wide. And then I can make a mark from each of these 3 vertices. So I can make one here for E. I can make one here for A. And I'll make one more for L, right there. And then, just like I did for F, I measure from X to A prime. And I copy that distance over to X prime. And I measure from X to E prime, and do the same arc. And once more for L prime. And throughout this process, you just want to be very, very careful about setting your compass to the correct width, because if you have any sort of error, it's really going to throw off your final result, because that error keeps getting sort of blown up and blown up and blown up. And if you get off a little bit at some point, it can end up really changing your picture a lot. So if I connect these 4 points, we'll see how I did. E to L to F to A. There we go. And just for fun, let's erase the marks and see how it looks. I think that did pretty good. So there you have it. That's how you do a glide reflection, and hopefully this will be very useful to you.